Hey, Cleaning Nation, Mike Campion here with Lindsay Bjorklund for our weekly Facebook Live Lovin'. If you want to participate, email Lindsay or support at growmycleaningcompany.com. Lindsay gets those for anything you want us to talk about, or join our Facebook group for free and tag Lindsay with a question that you've got. So that said, Lindsay, who do we got? What do we got? How can I help our sweet Cleaning Nation today?
Yeah, so Mike, this week's theme was competing on price versus selling on value.
All right, competing on price versus selling on value. Love that. Let me just set a foundation that will answer any specific questions Cleaning Nation has. This is one of the most important things when it comes to selling, but I feel like it's been oversaid, so people sometimes tune out. Like when you hear stuff like sell the steak, not the sizzle, or compete on value, not on price. We've heard it all before, and it's easy to tune it out. So I'm trying to say it in a way that people are like, oh, that makes sense, because it's like it's a saying because it's so important. There's a reason people say it over and over and over again. I think the thing is people tell us it's too expensive. What they mean, and all of us, the cool thing is we're all buyers and sellers, right? It's not like we're all trying to sell stuff that we've never bought. When things are too expensive, what we're really saying is I'm not getting enough value for what I'm getting. The parting with money is I don't like that. It makes me feel unhappy. This thing I'm buying will hopefully give me some sort of happiness or comfort or security or joy, or have some sort of perceived, or alleviate a pain. And by the way, people will do more to go away from pain than they will to go towards pleasure, right? So it's easier to help them get away from a pain than to go towards a pleasure. That said, when they go, that's $500 a month to clean my place twice a week, that's too expensive. What we hear is what they said. It's too expensive. You should lower your prices. Maybe you're paying your people too much. You're greedy. There's no way to make money because we hear it's too expensive. What they're really saying is, I'm seeing less than $500 worth of value. If I thought there was $1,000 worth of value, it's certainly not too expensive. But I see $300 worth of value, so 500 is too much. So we only see the option if I could lower the price, which is true. But then we're Walmart, right? When you do a race to the bottom, you got to be the best. Like Walmart can be Walmart because they are really good. Same with Amazon. Like they are really good at making stuff cheap. And us trying to compete with that is just going to be a bear. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it is tough. So you can race to the bottom on price, which is a very difficult business model. Or you can just add value, right? Go from the $300 of value, find a way to get them to understand the $600 or $700 of value. And then all of a sudden the $500 price seems fair. So when it comes to price, the go-to move that they're going to complain and make you think is only answers to lower your price, but that makes everything good go away. Margin, payroll, all the stuff that makes you magical comes with price. The other option is you could either lower your price or you could raise the value. Or even more importantly, you could help them understand the value that you're already bringing, right? If you're bringing $1,000 worth of value, but they only see $300 of value, you don't even need to raise the value. You just need to help them understand the value that they're already bringing. So we just want to make sure we're having the right conversation, and lowering the price is almost never the right conversation. In order of importance, I would raise the quality of the customer, right? If I'm sitting in a trailer park and the trailer itself is worth 10 grand and he's paying $300 a month in rent for the lot, or $500 a month for the whole lot, and I'm charging $500 a month to clean the trailer, I'm probably I can't bring that guy $500 worth of value. But when it's $1 million home and the guy makes $250,000 a year and he gets paid a couple $100 an hour for his time, I can absolutely bring $500 worth of value. So first and foremost, make sure you're talking to the right person, that you can bring value. And then second of all, make sure that you are, they understand the value that you're bringing. And then finally raise the value. Those kind of in descending order of easy and cheap. Get better prospects, easiest, cheapest. Articulate the value that you're bringing a little harder and a little less cheap. And then the hardest thing to do is to actually raise the value that you bring by cleaning more or adding value. So there's a foundation. Lindsay, hit us with a question. I'm going to jump in real quick because Lindsay is breaking up. Avi asked how to sell the value. Lindsay knew that we might have problems. She sent me the questions in advance. So I haven't read this, by the way. So I'm just reading it now. How to sell the value your company brings versus competing on price. I think we talked about that. How to relay or convey the value during the walkthrough or when speaking to the decision maker after proposals made. Okay, really important. So the way that she's framing the question is going to make me think this is a commercial endeavor. So the big answer to the question of how to convey the value, believe it or not, is going to be the opposite of what you think. We believe the best way or the only way to convey value is to talk. believe it or not, you'll do much better by listening. So when we are talking about how great we are and how smart we are and how good our services are, and we clean good and we clean green and we clean fast and we clean, our cleaners are better looking or whatever the heck it is, believe it or not, everybody says that. So when I say I'm the best coach in the world and all the other coaches say they're the best coach in the world, you really don't have enough data to make a decision on. So the reality of the situation is we want to add value by listening. So most of your competition are going to do crazy things like talking about themselves, and they'll run their finger across the desk for the dust or see something crazy going. And really all you're doing is saying that you're telling the person that's buying they made a bad decision on who they hired, which is not super effective. So asking questions and letting them talk is going to bring a lot more value than you talking or trying to tell them how good you are. The best thing is for them to tell you how good you are. And the way that they'll do that is by you asking questions and listening. I was literally just doing a sales training with some of our next level clients before, and one of our clients had a guy who said, they come out, they don't do a really good job, but I don't pay very much. So I kind of feel weird complaining. And the regular salesperson is going to go, we don't do that. We charge a fair amount. We do that. We clean better. And they're just going to jump on it. Right. And that's not going to help at all. What she did was genius. She did a great job well, tell me about that. When you say they don't clean and you want a better job, how does that make you? She got curious as opposed to judgmental. So the way that you bring value is getting curious and asking questions to help them clarify their pain and their cost. And when you say it, it's a lie from the pit of hell because you're a dirty salesperson. When they say it, it's the God's honest truth, right? So the way to get them to say what the problem is by to ask them questions and let them tell you. So when you say this is bad cleaning, your cleaners suck, it's a judgmental thing. It's going to make them get offended and you're going to look unprofessional. When they say, well, I don't really like this. Well, tell me about that. How does it make you feel? When you say you don't like it, who else does it affect? Is it your family? Is it just you? Where do you feel that? What kind of emotions do you have? If you don't fix it, what's going to happen? How long have you been dealing with this? What has it been costing you? Like there's 1,000 questions you can ask, and letting them talk is going to give value. So that's on the walkthrough. And then Ivy said, when speaking directly to the decision maker, I would encourage you on all of your walkthroughs. I only speak with a decision maker. So if someone's calling like, oh, I'm just getting a bunch of bids, I personally on the commercial side would be like, well, when the guy who's really wanting to solve this problem is committed to solving it, have him call me and I'm happy to talk to him. But I'm not going to do a bunch of bids because what's going to happen is you're going to get 5 or 6 bids. You're going to give it to the guy. He's going to have a bunch of questions for the top 2 or 3. And then you're going to go through the whole process all over again when I'm only going to talk to the decision maker. So I guess to answer your question, I would only speak to the decision maker. And then 3 is a really good piece after a proposal is made. I'm huge on training. I don't give a proposal without an agreement that they're going to say yes or no at that time. So after the proposal is made, I don't know. I think at that point, the sale is already lost. So I set up I'll say the deal, but I set up the foundation or the context in giving them permission. If for whatever reason they think I'm not a good fit, I'm too expensive, they don't like what I'm doing, they can just tell me that. And I get permission to do the same if I don't think I can help, right? So if they're all about price and they're too cheap or there's whatever they want, I can't help or don't want to help, I have permission to say, hey, I don't want to give you a bid. I don't think I'm the best. And once I have permission that they can tell me we're not a fit and I can tell them they're not a fit. Well, if we both think it's a fit, if I know I can help you and we're both clear on your problem, you know I can solve it and I know you can solve it and we're super excited, what would you like to do? They're either going to say, I'd like to get started. Now I have a commitment. Or they're going to say, I need to think it over, talk to somebody else, and I'm going to address that problem then before I give them a bid. I'm not going to give them a bid. Hey, Clean Nation, Mike Campion here. One of my least favorite things about these podcasts are we found that people love the show and they love the information, but when I talk to you guys in person, stuff doesn't get done. People love the podcast, but they don't take any action. If you'd like to actually implement this and get this done in your world, we have a whole team of people that do exactly that. If you go to growmycleaningcompany.com/talk, you can book a time with either myself personally or one of our teammates to at least help you come up with a plan to actually implement and change your life. So if you want to go from getting these good ideas in your head to getting them in your life, just book a free call with myself or my team, growmycleaningcompany.com/talk. And we can go from this one-to-many format to one-to-one and really get you some results. Excited to talk. How do I find more clients that value the service and will pay the cost because it's worth it? There's a lot of rich but cheap people in this town. Even if I find their pain, they still look for someone that can solve it cheaper. It's so funny you say this, Raina, because with our clients that we do sales training with, they all say the exact, I did pain, I got their pain, and we have them record their calls and we go over them. It's like an actual coaching. And once we go in for 3 minutes, like, oh my God, I did not get their pain. So what I always tell them, and it's kind of harder on this vantage, having, gosh, hundreds of sales calls I've reviewed for all the companies I've owned for clients. I've done hundreds of calls. And I don't think there's ever been a one where the person that said, I got a ton of pain, and they articulated and they understood it, and we listened to the recording of the call, they never got pain. So to answer your question, Raina, is again, rich people are no different than poor people. They just don't want to get taken advantage of, right? So perfect example of this is with most people I have food with, I'm typically have more money than them. And I almost always buy for everybody. And it's fine. I don't mind. What I do mind is when people just kind of don't even reach for their wallet and are just like, Mike's rich, he'll pay for it. I do not like that. Don't mind paying, but like my bride, my sweet bride, we were dating, she was so broke. And I did okay. And she always wanted to pay. And she even insisted on paying. Like we'd go out to dinner 10 times and she'd like force herself to pay like once. And she offered every time. And and she wasn't just trying to, I don't think, be manipulated. She wanted to contribute. And I love that about her. So it's not because I wanted her $32 for her half of lunch or dinner or whatever it was. It was, I don't want to feel like I was being taken advantage of. And that's how, I hear some vendors like, oh, I go to a rich house, $1 million house, and I jack up my prices. Well, that's not, rich people don't want to be screwed. They didn't get rich by being stupid. They got rich by being smart, and they don't want to be taken advantage of, just like you don't want to be taken advantage of. So when people say, oh, there's rich people, but they're cheap, what they're typically saying is, they're particular, or they know how to get a good value and they don't want to be taken advantage of. And oftentimes they didn't get clear on what that person's problem was. And they ask superficial questions like, how long was that person cleaning, or how often were they there? Or what kind of solvents did they use? And those aren't pain conversations, right? Pain conversations are, how does it make you feel when they don't do the job that they said? Who else is this affecting? How long have you been dealing with this? If you don't fix it, what do you think is going to happen? What's the most frustrating part about getting taken advantage of? When you start asking these questions, they're going to start sharing stuff that's really going on. So I want to encourage you. I guess 1 in 100 might just be, again, nobody's unreasonable. They just, when people say things like they're rich, but they're cheap, it's like, they're not cheap. They're just not seeing the value. And here's the other thing. Most of the time, the value that we're presenting them is we clean good, we clean better. We don't cut corners, we clean, and we clean better than everybody else. We're going to tear everything up, but we don't understand their pain. Being a guy that's got a couple bucks, I'm much more interested in who's going to be in my house. Are you insured? If I'm not home and my young son and my wife are alone, am I going to be comfortable with who's in the house? If none of us are home, are you guys going to be okay handling my dogs? Are you going to let my dogs out? Just things like that. And notice none of that was about price. But if all you talk about is we don't cut corners, we clean them, but I don't really see with systems or processes or backup or insurance, I'm still not going to feel like I'm getting a good deal. And you might find that to be cheap, but it's just you haven't asked enough questions to understand my pain. And once I articulate my pain to you, I'm confident you can solve it. So hopefully that makes sense. Lindsay's off camera and her internet's not great. So I'm going to go to I'm just going to read last couple of questions coming up a lot in the Facebook group, mostly for residential. How do you get clients to stop thinking in terms of price per hour and focus on how long the clean takes? Those are the same thing, by the way, price per hour and how long the clean takes. I don't want them focused on either of those things. I want them focused on the value that they're getting in the outcome, right? The perfect example is what we do. We coach people, but our clients aren't like, well, how many hours of coaching do I get with Mike? And what about the other coaches? And is it on Zoom or is it on Google Meets? What about phone? They don't care. All they care is, can you help me build my cleaning company? Can you help me work less and make more and build the company that I want? And if we do that with Magic Fairy Desk or with Magic Hugs or with coaching or Zoom calls, that's really secondary. So to answer your question on how do I get them to stop thinking about terms of per hour, is that questions that you ask, right? So we'll ask a question. What thanks for inviting me out. What's going on? How can I help? And they'll say something like, they don't do a good job dusting. right? Dusting is a price per hour kind of question. I know I could dust it and I could take me 10 minutes and I could do a good job and blah, blah, blah. And that might only be worth, in my mind, $20 per hour. So that superficial pain of dusting is a commodity, right? Anyone can come in and dust. But when you go, well, when you say they don't do a good job dusting, what do you mean? Well, I'll sit in my office and I'll see dust. Okay, well, why is that a problem? Why does it upset you so much? Well, I'll be on a Zoom call trying to work and have a business meeting, and I can feel myself getting angry because there's the dust there. All right, so when you're angry on a business card, how does that, or on a business card, on a business call, how does that affect your day? Oh my gosh, I've been losing deals. Well, how big are these deals? And we can go all the way down to, again, you want to get not just the superficial pain, but the consequences of the pain and the consequences to the consequences. So the right answer, or not the right answer, but what in my experience, what has worked really well for me to get them to stop thinking in terms of price per hour is ask questions that get them to the overall cost of not having this solved and not into. So again, perfect example would be an oil change. If you go to get an oil change, you're like, well, first we have to get on the lift. That takes 6 minutes and costs $8. Then we've got to drain the oil. It's really just one nut, and that can take 4 to 3 minutes. And then we've got, like, if you go piece by piece, it's not a big thing. They're like, if you don't change your oil, your engine's going to wear down, and this $60,000 car that you have might need $5,000 or $10,000 of maintenance and leave you stranded at the side of the road. For $100, we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen because of the oil. Okay, that's a much clearer value proposition. All right, last thing here, I think, is should people take time to do competitive research on what other cleaning companies are charging in the area before quoting a price to a prospect? I love that question. And I would say definitively no, for a lot of reasons. One is, we don't know what they're charging everybody. We only know what that person, whoever we're talking to, said they charged them, but we don't know really what they were charging them for or what they were planning on doing. More importantly, we don't know if that other cleaning company is making any money, right? You go, well, they're bigger than me. That doesn't mean they're more profitable than you. C, we don't know if they are making money in spite of or because of their pricing, right? It could be like, I'm super rich and I just put money into my company all day long. D, you don't know if it's the right, there's just so many variables that you don't know. Like maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a special price, maybe the guy made a mistake, maybe it's a new salesperson. So having been in the coaching space for a decade now, just for owners of cleaning companies, all I do is we've seen the books of thousands and thousands of owners of cleaning companies. And a lot of you guys aren't profitable if you don't clean, right? So it's really the blind leading the blind. You're like, should I find out what other people that probably aren't getting the result that I want? Should I find out what they're doing to make decisions on what I'm doing? The answer is no. So we teach how to price based on, we go for a 30% net profit to the owner. We make sure our clients are paid good. There's plenty of money for overhead. And that's what we charge. And some clients are going to go, not we charge those, we coach our clients to charge. And do they get every job? No, of course they don't. But they get enough to meet their goals. And if you guys were listening, I know when Adon and Ruthie's podcast is going to listen to, they like 4x the revenue of their company, but they only grew the number of clients by 20%. So it makes a big difference when how much you charge and who you get and the quality of the client is so important. So no, most of your clients are not, or most of your competitors are not charging an effective amount to make any money. So knocking them off or doing what they're doing is absolutely not going to serve you. And again, the 3 things that you want to do if you're not getting enough money is either change client, right? If you're in a mobile home or an apartment, you're just not going to be able to give as much money as elsewhere. B, change the way that you articulate the value that you bring. Or 3, bring more value, right? Like you could have a group, a networking group for clients. If you're in commercial, if you're residential, you might have a wine and cheese for moms every other week, or a date night, or bring flowers or a massage gift certificate. There's 1,000 ways you can bring more value. You just have to find out what that is. So most of the time it's you're losing on price because you're selling the same thing everyone else is selling. We clean better than everybody else. And when everyone's saying we clean better than everyone else, and I know you're like, oh, but I really do, but the client can't know. And no offense, the numbers say you can't clean better than everybody else because there's only one that's quote unquote the best. So most of the time people lose on price because they're selling we clean better, not really understanding what the client wants. So Cleaning Nation, if that was helpful, feel free to reach out, support at growmycleaningcompany.com. And yeah, having done this for years and years and years and years, one of the biggest, easiest levers to move is to increase the quality of your client as opposed to trying to get more crappy clients. Hopefully that's helpful. We'll see you next week. Hey, Cleaning Nation, if you dug the content you just got, we don't do any ads and I don't sell anything on this podcast, but if you would just subscribe, rate, and review, it would be huge and I'd be so appreciative. Not only is it going to help me, but you'll help other owners of cleaning companies across the world work less, make more, and get profitable. So if you appreciate the value we give, again, subscribe, rate, and review. It would mean the world to me. I'd really appreciate it. And we sure appreciate your time and attention.